Okay, so if any of you read Babel, okay, I'm not gonna explain Babel. I'm just going to like directly go into it, okay? But this totally relates to my last video about the lady who apparently thinks her psychiatrist loves her. But anyway, so Babel, right? The whole time Rami, Rafi Mirza, the dark skinned Bangladeshi man that is alive in the 1830s when British colonization was at like its peak. Okay, and the British Empire was like literally basically gutting Bangladesh dry from its jewels to its gold, to basically treating Bangladeshis like literal slaves. Okay, they were maybe one step off from being chattel slaves. Okay. I'm not even kidding, okay? Read the historical documents. My point is proven, okay? There were multiple different famines, like endlessly, between 1880 and 1920. 40 million Bangladeshis died. Just Bangladeshis alone. Forget about Indians and Pakistanis, okay? Forget about Sri Lankans. 40 million in 40 years. 40 years. That's at least 1 million per year. From a famine induced by British rule, because they weren't able to eat the food that they grew. They were forced to give it to the British, and they couldn't wear their Bangladeshi muslin. They had to give it to the British. Okay. So on the like hierarchy of like who gets it worst, okay, between the Irish and Africans, that were during the time of slavery, that they're in between it. Okay, 1830s, and now he's in 1830s England, heart of the literal colonial empire. All right. And then Letitia Price is just like, yeah, I like Rami. And he clearly, he's just like, I'm Muslim. I only like go into these type of things to marry. Okay, and I don't want to get married right now. In fact, I find Robin, the guy's company, way better than anyone else. Okay, I find his company like way more enthusing than yours. And he's just like, I'm much more worried about staying in the school than anything else. So like, can you please knock it off? And Letty's not taking the hint, or maybe she is, but like she's clearly just being like, okay, yeah, Rami's playing hard to get, even though he's literally not. But she's like being like, okay, do you want to do this together? And Rami's just like, no, I don't. And then she's just like, this, and he's like, no, I do not. I am doing my schoolwork and I am talking with Robin, my birdie. That is it. Okay. So then it gets mentioned later in the book after the I think it was after the Oxford dance anyway, which proves that Letitia doesn't actually like Rami for like him, but like she kind of like fetishizes him, considering the house she grew up in literally looks like it's trying to mimic the Taj Mahal. Okay, she's like one of those white ladies that do yoga and basically like fetishize and somehow demonize like Indian culture. And yeah, I know he's not Indian, but like it's the same premise. Okay, she's clearly like trying to amalgamize like Indian and Bengali culture and Pakistani culture, and like basically being a culture vulture and like fetishizing him and not like actually liking him for him, and that's the reason why Rami likes Robin, or his words, birdie, because like Robin actually sees Rami for Rami and not like a fetishized, sexualized version and like a demonized version of him. He actually sees him for who he is. Letty just sees the sexualized, fetishized version. Because Rami basically has to play like 5 million different roles to survive in this society. Okay, so there's a scene like after the Oxford Ball, like I think they're on their way to China. I think either they're in China or on the way to China, and they're in Canton, I think. And then a lady's just like a white lady, I think. Yeah, it was a white lady, and she's white lady or guy, I forgot. Some white British person, okay? It's just like, oh, your skin is like walnuts, or your skin has the same complexion as walnuts. I like that. And then Rami feels uncomfortable because he's basically being sexualized. Okay, if I had the quote, I would bring it up because it's much worse than what I make it sound like. Basically sexualizes him just in front of his face, and he's just like, no. And then Letty is just like, well, I think your skin is nice, and Rami is just like, hi, don't do that. And then Letitia is just like, well, I think your skin is nice. She's just doing a compliment. And then Rami's just like, no, she's not. He's like, no, she's not. She's clearly sexualizing me. She's clearly, like, fetishizing me, And, like, he tries to make her understand where he's coming from his point of view, of being a dark-skinned Bangladeshi man. Okay, that's a Muslim. All right. And like, especially at that point, because of how many uprisings we were leading in, the Indian subcontinent, along with like Hindu and Sikh warriors. Yeah, we were kind of on our target. We were kind of on a list with the British people. So, yeah, we're automatically getting demonized, even at that time, But, back to the Oxford Ball. He's just like, Letty. He's just like, Letty, my sweet, he's like, my sweet dear Letty, okay? I like you sort of as a friend, even though you never get me and you never see from my point of view, okay? But I don't like you like that. And she's like, well, why don't you just dance with me? And he's just like, and he's basically, I forgot if it's in the actual book or like basically implied that like, oh yes, you want me to go out on that dance floor in front of like hundreds of white British dudes, okay, as a dark-skinned Bengali Muslim man, and take you and dance with you, and then basically have those other guys basically like sort of come after me because they think, oh yeah, I'm stealing away the precious British, and it's just like, okay, yeah, I'm going to take those white boys, white delicate English flower of a girl, onto this dance floor. Basically, he's thinking like, oh yeah, they're gonna think I stole what was theirs, and I'm gonna be attacked just like brown men have in America, and brown and black men have been in America, and especially at that time. So then she tries to weaponize it, and he's just like, no. Up until the point, okay, spoilers ahead, for the next, 10 seconds, okay? Starting now. Letty guns Rami down. Okay, she guns Rami down. Because, he just wouldn't, kind of be with her, and she hated that. And, he's becoming this, revolutionary person in the fight for the resistance. So she's just like, no, even worse. And then she's just like, you know what? Let me. Yeah. So how this is relevant to the psychiatrist thing, okay? White women tears. White women manipulation on brown and black guys can literally kill them, okay? A lot of the lynchings in America for black and brown women, black and brown men, sorry. I mean, there was probably women, but especially black and brown guys, was because, for example, with Emmett Till, okay, he whistled at a lady, allegedly, okay, and years later she said, oh, he actually didn't, but whistling was his form of communication. All right, because he couldn't speak, he had some sort of speech problem. But yeah, it was proven that he didn't at all. But she took it as oh, he wants me. Oh, and she was probably just like, oh, I like that boy. And then she probably took it as oh, I like that boy. But he's clearly a boy and clearly doesn't like me like that. So I'm upset. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna tell my male relatives, and they're gonna kill this 14-year-old boy in cold blood. And because of that, because of my tears, because I was just like, oh, help me, I'm the victim. This victim mentality in white women, when they don't get what they want, it's like a switch. When they don't get what they want, they weaponize their womanhood and literally kill people. Okay? That's why Rami and Letty are the same as